I arrived home after a grueling business trip, exhausted but relieved to finally be back. The week had been long, and all I wanted was to drop my bags, take a hot shower, and collapse into bed. But as I reached for my keys and slid one into the lock, something felt off. The key wouldn't turn. I tried again. No movement. Confused, I stepped back and examined the door. That's when I noticed it. The lock had been changed. My pulse quickened, a cold unease creeping into my chest. I knocked at first lightly, then harder. No response. I pulled out my phone and called my wife, Natalie, straight to voicemail. I tried again, same result. Frustration mixed with confusion as I typed out a message. "Hey, I just got home. What's going on? The lock is different." The response came almost immediately. "I found someone better." 4 words. That was it. I stared at the screen, disbelief turning into something darker, something colder. I expected anger, shock, maybe even panic. Instead, an eerie calm settled over me. My fingers hovered over the keyboard before I typed back a single question. "Are you sure about that?" I didn't wait for a reply. Instead, I turned around and walked away, leaving behind not just the doorstep, but something deeper. Something that in that moment I realized had already been gone long before I got home. I didn't go to a hotel. I didn't call a friend. I just drove. No music, no distractions, just the sound of the tires against the pavement and my own thoughts, sharp and relentless. Natalie, the woman I had built a life with, the woman I had supported, encouraged, and trusted. And now she had replaced me like an old piece of furniture. But with who and why now? I didn't have to wonder for long. An hour later, my phone buzzed. It was Daniel, an old friend who worked in the same industry as Natalie. If something was happening in her world, he'd know. "You all right, man?" he asked the moment I picked up. I let out a dry laugh. "Not really." "I heard what happened," he said carefully. "Listen, you need to know who she left you for." I gripped the steering wheel tighter. "Go on." "It's Julian Carter." That name hit me like a fist to the gut. Julian Carter was a client of Natalie's firm. Wealthy, charming, and, most importantly, dangerous. His reputation was well known. He didn't just date women in powerful positions, he used them. He seduced them, gained access to privileged corporate information, then discarded them when they were no longer useful. And Natalie had fallen for it. Or maybe she thought she was the one in control. I took a deep breath, my mind already shifting gears. This wasn't just about betrayal. This was about something bigger, something I could use, because Natalie had no idea that she wasn't the only one who had built her career. I had been there every step of the way, and I still had leverage. I parked in an empty lot, staring at the city lights as memories surfaced. Memories Natalie had likely erased the moment she decided I was expendable. She hadn't started at the top. She wasn't born into money, nor did she come from a family of connections. I had been there from the beginning, pushing her forward when she doubted herself, introducing her to the right people, helping her navigate the ruthless corporate world. When she wanted to quit, I convinced her to stay. When she needed support, I was her foundation, and now she had thrown it all away for Julian Carter. The more I thought about it, the clearer everything became. Natalie had grown arrogant, believing she had built her success alone. She didn't realize how much of her world was still tied to me, how much I still had the power to take away. I pulled up her financial records from our shared accounts. Years of expensive tastes had turned into reckless spending. High-limit credit cards, designer brands, luxury vacations, all things I had once indulged without a second thought. But now, without my steady hand in the background, how was she planning to sustain it? That's when the real question hit me. Had she planned this betrayal, or had Julian convinced her it was a good idea? I didn't need to speculate. I would find out soon enough. Because while Natalie may have thought she was moving forward without me, she was about to learn that some ghosts from the past don't just fade away. They come back stronger. The more I dug, the more cracks I found in Natalie's perfect life. She had always loved the illusion of control, but illusions don't pay bills, and hers were piling up. Bank statements, transaction histories, everything painted the same picture. She had been spending far beyond her means. Designer handbags, first-class flights, luxury hotels, private shopping experiences. At first I assumed Julian was funding her new lifestyle, but something didn't add up. Then I saw it. Hidden among normal business transactions were suspicious withdrawals. Large sums transferred from her company's discretionary funds to an unregistered account under her name. My stomach twisted. Natalie wasn't just reckless. She was stealing. She had siphoned corporate money to maintain the extravagant life she thought she deserved, and the timing was too perfect to be a coincidence. Had Julian convinced her this was a smart move, or was she trying to impress him, proving she could keep up with his world? Either way, it didn't matter, because now I had something far more valuable than just revenge. I had evidence. I copied everything: screenshots, account numbers, transaction dates. Natalie thought she had won. She thought she had taken everything from me. But what she didn't realize was that she had given me the perfect weapon to destroy her. I just needed to be patient. Julian Carter wasn't just some wealthy playboy. He was a strategist, a man who thrived on manipulation. He didn't chase women for love. He targeted them for access. And now, he had Natalie exactly where he wanted her. Through Daniel, I learned more about Julian's past. He had a pattern: seduce powerful women, gain insider information, and then use it for financial leverage. The women? They were disposable. By the time the dust settled, Julian was always gone, leaving behind reputations in ruins and legal battles that never quite managed to pin him down. It was a game to him, and Natalie had become his latest piece. I started connecting the dots. She had been funneling company money into a private account. Why? Because Julian needed her to. Maybe he promised her a new life, a bigger future. Maybe he convinced her it was a risk worth taking. But here's what neither of them realized. I knew the system better than both of them. Natalie's firm had strict compliance protocols. If money was moving in ways it shouldn't, there were records, and if there were records, I could make sure they ended up in the right hands. I wasn't going to confront her. I wasn't going to warn her. I was going to let the trap close on its own. I had everything I needed: proof of Natalie's embezzlement, Julian's pattern of corporate espionage, and a clear path to their downfall. Now, it was time to act. I reached out to a senior board member at Natalie's company, someone I had built trust with over the years. I presented the evidence carefully, without emotion, just cold, hard facts. The reaction was immediate. The board launched an internal audit, and within hours, Natalie's transactions were flagged as fraudulent. Then came the fallout. Natalie was blindsided. The company froze her assets, suspended her from all duties, and called for an emergency review. When she tried to defend herself, they laid out every transaction, every unauthorized withdrawal. Her carefully curated world was collapsing, and the worst part, Julian was nowhere to be found. The moment whispers of an investigation surfaced, he disappeared. No calls, no messages, nothing. He had taken what he needed and moved on, leaving Natalie alone to deal with the consequences. By the time the board formally demanded her resignation, she had already lost everything: her job, her status, and her supposed new life. And I wasn't done yet. As Natalie's life crumbled, mine took an unexpected turn. The board, impressed by my handling of the situation, offered me a position, one that placed me directly in the role she once held. Her fall had left a power vacuum, and I was more than prepared to fill it. Meanwhile, Natalie faced the harsh reality of her choices. Her accounts were frozen, her professional reputation was in shambles, and without a steady income, she couldn't sustain her lavish lifestyle. She lost the house, the luxury cars, everything she had built on deception. Julian? He had already moved on, likely charming his next target. There was no happy ending for her, no redemption arc. Just a slow, painful realization that she had gambled everything and lost. And as I sat in my new office overlooking the city, I felt nothing but quiet satisfaction. Justice had a way of finding its mark. Amid the chaos of Natalie's downfall, one particular detail stood out: her prized possession, a custom-made Italian leather sofa worth a staggering $112,000. She had bought it as a statement piece for Julian, a symbol of her new life, her elevation to something grander, Now it sat abandoned in storage, another casualty of her recklessness. I made a call, arranged for delivery. And just like that, the centerpiece of her dream life became the centerpiece of my office. There was something poetic about it. Every time I looked at that ridiculous sofa, I was reminded of what she had tried to build without me, and how easily it had all come crashing down. Not through anger, not through desperation, just through simple, calculated patience. And that made the victory all the sweeter. Days passed, then weeks. I assumed Natalie had disappeared into obscurity, too ashamed to reach out. But then, late one night, my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. I knew who it was before I even opened it. "You planned all of this, didn't you?" There was no apology, no attempt at reconciliation, just that single bitter accusation. I stared at the screen for a long moment, considering my options. I could respond, rub salt in the wound, confirm her worst fears, or I could ignore her, let her sit with the consequences of her own choices. In the end, I did exactly what she deserved. Nothing. I deleted the message and went to sleep, feeling lighter than I had in years. Looking back, I can see how some might say I was ruthless, that I let Natalie destroy herself rather than stopping her before it was too late. But why would I? She made her choices. She locked me out. She threw me away for someone who never had any real intentions of keeping her. I didn't force her to steal. I didn't make Julian abandon her. I simply let the truth take its course. Justice or revenge? Maybe both. What do you think? Was I cruel for not warning her? Or was this exactly what she deserved?